Medha, how are you feeling today?
I'm fine,
Good?
sir. How are you, sir? Good, sir.
Okay.
Absolutely.
I have your DAF. Okay. Medha, you're from Bareilly?
Yes, sir. Born in Bareilly, sir.
Fantastic. Fantastic. And so all your growing up years, you've been in Bareilly or have you moved around?
So I've moved around a lot. I have been to Muradabad. I've been to Kanpur. I've been to Saharanpur. I've been to Meerut. So
Okay.
since I have working parents, I move around a lot, sir.
And why is that? Is that like your father or mother or a transferable job or?
Y- Yes, sir. Both of them are in transferable jobs. So my mother works in a bank and my father works in roadways, UPSRTC.
Ah, I see. Okay, okay, there you go. So that this must have given you some um, opportunity to see a lot of UP, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
Okay, great. Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam Technical University. Wonderful. All right. So, you've been, I see that you have excellent academic record here. 10th, 10 plus 2, your BTech. Okay. All right. Okay. Okay, great. So, so Medha, I think let's just begin this by talking a little bit about Medha, okay? I think you have taken a journey and in your formative years, there is things that have shaped your personality. You chose this as a career and you finally landed here in this interview room, right? So give me a sense of who you are and why you want this and how you came here. Give me your story.
So, sir, to begin with, I am Medha. Medha means Buddhi, as we say, Medhavi Chhatra. So that is where I derive my name from. And so from the beginning, I had this urge to do something in the society because I saw women around me not doing that well. So once I just spoke to my mother about all this, and she said, oh, for changing anything substantial, you need to have power with responsibility. So that is where I started my journey from. I got my first civics quality book from my mother as a gift so that I get to know if I am interested into this or it's just a phase. So
When was
after my
that?
so
When was
that
that?
was so that was a class 11th and 12th civics book because I was
Okay.
doing
Okay.
maths. Yeah.
Keep going. Keep going.
Yes, sir. So post that, after my completing my graduation, I gave a better look onto this journey, and thereafter I started in 2017. 2019, my second attempt, I got into Indian Traffic Railway Traffic Services, and currently, sir, I'm posted in Prayagraj as Assistant Traffic Manager Planning.
So you got through railway traffic services. That was which year was that?
So 2019.
2019.
Yes, sir.
And when did you first start preparing for UPSC?
So post my graduation in 2017, I gave my first attempt in 2018. 19, I got through, sir.
19 you got through. And then subsequently, when did you restart your preparation?
So I gave another attempt in 20, reached an interview, missed the list by a mark. And in 21, I did not get through prelims. In 22, I skipped it. And in 23, here I am, sir.
Okay. All right. Okay. So what did you see in that civics book? Which chapter was it that said, yes, I want to be in UPSC?
Sir, it said something about democracy. I remember it faintly now because that was like in class 11th, maybe 2011 that I read it. But it had something with democracy and how when people started charging water, it became a menace for some city or for some country, it mentioned. So I realized how very small changes in the governance system can bring in substantive changes in the lives of the people. While we don't respect water when it's free, but if somebody starts charging water, it can actually become a menace for the country as a whole. So I think that was the point where I realized that very small changes in the governance structure can have a very huge and deep impact onto the country as a whole.
And in your experience in the railway traffic sector, um, what has been your most challenging moment in
Uh,
governance? Yeah.
so initially there were some personal challenges to face because we didn't have separate washrooms for lady officers. So that was a bit concerning because I expected our office to do a bit better than what I got there. But we see so soon we were able to solve that problem. But sir, apart from that, we usually have a lot of challenge in managing issues. For example, we have limited supplies of locomotives, but we have a large number of train sets to cater to. So when we have less number of locomotives, usually our trains lines get blocked, and it leads to a lot of turnaround time for the trains and also loss of punctuality for passenger trains. So, sir, that is one of the pressing problem. That is a daily problem that we have to face.
And in what ways do you think the solutions might be to that problem?
So one solution I see is the coming up of train sets like Vande Bharat. It doesn't use a locomotive at the front or rear. It is a complete train set like the EMUs also that we have. So there is no requirement of changing of locomotives or turning it around. So that is one thing. So second is that with time, I think we'll be able to enhance our asset, and with that we'll be able to provide with the coming up of dedicated freight corridors, wherein longer trains will be built up. We'll be able to cater to a lot of wagon load together with a single locomotive power.
Is that the biggest problem that railways is facing today, or is there something else?
With respect to customer services, I think it is the punctuality and the cleanliness aspect. But from a governance point of view, I think it is the management of asset. With the coming up of new Vande Bharats, we'll have to. It will be difficult to prioritize. Right now, the Vande Bharats reach on time because they are given priority over the other. But what will happen once all the trains are Vande Bharat? And second is, sir, that with coming up of high speed railways, we will have to ensure that there is saving of human lives, because a train which is coming at 150 kmph, it won't be able to stop to protect a human life if somebody is coming in front of it. So some sort of barricading around the railway structure, so that is another challenge that I see.
So this prioritization issue is pretty interesting. So because you have a lot of trains that don't run on time, it is easy to prioritize, you said, some of them. But if everything is a Vande Bharat, it is going to have the same problem. So how do you solve this prioritization problem?
Sir, one is that we are doubling the lines. Wherever there were single lines and trains coming from both the directions had to cross from a similar track, we are coming up with doubling and even tripling of the lines. So we are able to cross all of them together. So second is we are dividing the whole section into smaller sections, because in one section we can only move one train. So if we are coming up with like this section is converted into two sections, we can get through three trains altogether. So another is that with the coming up of dedicated freight corridors, when the Malgadi will move on to some other track, which is slow as compared to the passenger trains, it will have a domino effect and it will ensure that the passenger trains come on time. Right now, sir, when we move a freight train, it is, sir, in railway bhasha called ki baki gaadiyan pit jati hai uske baad. So, sir, that will not happen, and we can ensure that the freight trains, they move separately with a better speed, and also we are giving good services to our passengers, sir.
Okay. And let's shift gears to your other aspect that you touched about cleanliness of trains. Now, is that because the railways is inefficient, or is that because the people that use these trains do not have some basic hygiene education?
So I think this is a very complex problem, and it has multiple reasons for the same. One, I can say that the passengers are not that well in their civic hygiene and levels. But that is not the only point to blame, sir. So another point I feel is what I've recently studied is the tyranny of L1. When we give cleanliness contracts, we give it to the one who does it for the least cost for us. But when the contractor is using the least amount of cost, definitely he or she won't be able to have those material and resources through which he or she will be able to clean that area well. If I'm giving it at a higher cost, I can ensure that the person uses good quality disinfectants and cleaners and gives more adherence to the manpower. But since
Hmm.
I'm giving it at a very petty cost, even that person is not able to get profits out of it. So I think the solution that for that would be a quality come cost based mechanism, wherein we give it at a higher cost, so that we are able to make the trains cleaner, like we've made the stations cleaner.
So quality and cost kind of competing for attention, and you're saying that okay, I will, but it's easy to throw money at a problem to solve it. Yes, I understand that that can be, but what are some of the other things that you can do? Money is finite. I'm sure that there is. Have you followed the railway budget and you know how much it is giving to cleanliness or you know that sort of thing over the last 4 5 years? Is it really getting better or are there other things we can do? Yeah.
So definitely there can be other things that can be done. Usually a small percentage of the railway budget, this year it is 2.55 lakh crore. So most of it will be spent on capex, and some 1% out of it would be used for cleanliness. But there can be other mechanisms. We can have a sort of a toll-free number wherein people can complain if they find that there is a drain that is blocked. We can have assistance on train wherein the cleanliness staff, the onboard cleanliness staff, have a legal responsibility to ensure that there is hygiene in the train. So with the coming up of bio toilets, it is another good initiative wherein we are also preventing the manual scavenger wala problem and simultaneously ensuring that the waste is also getting decomposed easier. So I think apart from the money aspect, these are some of the things that can also be done.
Okay, okay, good, good. So yeah, so that gives me a good idea. Let's talk a little bit about your home state, okay, UP. Obviously, you have gone around, seen the place, and interacted with people there. What would you categorize as the key issues UP is facing today, and where is UP headed in the next 5 to 10 years? Yeah, what's your perspective?
Sir, I understand that UP is going through a transformational phase wherein we are trying to change the perception that was towards UP from a Bimaru state to something which is very healthier and prosperous. So I think the challenge lies when we are in the middle of that journey, wherein we have challenges with respect to the skill development of our youth, wherein we are facing some levels of unemployment because there is a transition. Then, sir, cheatings in exam is one of the concerns that I see the most in the recent few months right now. Although, sir, UP already has an anti-cheating bill from a very long time. It is from 1992, if I remember it correctly. But still, we have instances of it makes it a graver problem. Sir, apart from it, I think UP is headed towards a very prosperous and good state wherein right now we have the second highest GSDP. We are a leader in we are in the achievers category of the leads index. And apart from that, sir, 7.36 lakh crore is the budget of UP with a lot of focus on infrastructure, skilling of the youth, cleaning of River Ganga. So it is a kind of a holistic development that we are planning for UP. And with time, I have very high hopes for our state, sir.
Okay, very optimistic outlook. But tell me, I think you quoted GSDP and budget. Is the size of the economy a good indicator of the health of the economy?
Sir, it is one of the ways. It is said that when a high wave comes, it lifts all the yachts as well as the smaller boats up, like at a higher level. So when the size of the pie will increase, definitely people's share in it will also increase. So
But
it is one.
has it happened? Has it happened like that?
So definitely, sir, there is a trickling down effect. When the industrialists will make money, they will give more employment opportunities to other people.
No, no, no.
We
I know. That is a theory, right? Trickle down
Yes, sir.
economics, that's a theory. I'm asking in UP last 2, 3 years or 5 years, what's your inequality? Has that actually happened? Has trickle down economics worked in UP?
So my understanding is yes, because when we are giving homes under the PM Awas Yojana, when our very common people, the one who is a fruit vendor or a chart vendor, they are using Paytm and Phone Pay. Definitely, it shows that their incomes are rising. Although I know it leads to a lot of tax theft also, because then there is no permanent establishment. But when the vendors and the normal people, they get their incomes enhanced, it is then that our consumer based economy works better and prospers. So sir, I think it is a positive feedback kind of a mechanism, wherein because of people's income levels increasing, their consumption patterns enhances, it leads to more production in the state, and thereby they get job opportunities, and then it gives a positive feedback, sir.
So income levels are increasing in which part of UP? Which sectors? Or overall?
So I think infrastructure is the biggest hit that we have right now, because with the coming up of new expressways, introduction of new Vande Bharat Express, and new trains being launched, I think that is one of the major sectors. So apart from this, logistics is a subsector sort of infrastructure itself, but that is getting a major boost. Sir, I think these are the two sectors. Apart from services, sir, services also is seeing a major uphill
So has
slope.
rural UP, do you see incomes growing in rural UP in the last, or agrarian UP in the last 5 to 10 years?
So based on the statistics here, I'll have to be less optimistic, because the latest statistics that I have read are that the rural wages are reducing, and even their consumption patterns are reducing, and the FMCG are seeing a rise in the premium products, the sale of premium products as compared to the sachet products that we saw as gaining a boost earlier. So I think
And
so there.
what percentage of UP lives in rural versus urban?
So the exact figures I'll have to read out, but I think 30% is urban.
So 70% of your people are facing lower income or no income growth, and only 30% are reaping the rewards of the trickle down economics. But that is making you optimistic. I'm surprised.
So I would like to have a longer term vision for the same, sir. So when roads will reach to the hinterlands of UP, they are bound to enhance the marketability of the people around there. With skilling of the youth of the rural areas, we'll be able to provide them better services. I think the strength of UP lies in its population. If we are able to utilize it well for our potential, then definitely that will help, sir. So the recent Shram
So
Suvidha.
that's
Yes,
the reason the GSDP is high. No, the population is high,
yes, sir.
right?
Yes, sir.
So the size of economy also depends on how many people are producing. So okay, I think okay. So you pointed out, my original question was problems of UP. I know you had. eh, It's okay to be optimistic versus pessimistic, but so what then are the number one, two, three of UP's issues? What would you say?
So one is the skill in the youth. Second, I would say the employability. Third, I would say the infrastructure. We need to give it a lot of push, along with the export potential that we have. I think in export sector we are an underachiever. We have a lot of potential, a lot of agriculture products, industrial products, as well as service sector products, which can be utilized to enhance our exports, sir. So I think these are the three, four areas where we can do better.
So basically, the demographic dividend is not working for you right now in UP. Is that an accurate statement?
So we are on the path of utilizing the demographic dividend, sir, because right now it's more of an agri-based economy. Once we shift to manufacturing and services better, we'll be able to utilize it well in the near future, sir.
So skills and youth, you said that's problem number one. What's
Yes.
what's going wrong there?
So first is I would like to link it with the cheating aspect that has been going on for a very long time. When the exams don't remain competitive, definitely we are not getting youth which is at par. So second is there was a lesser emphasis on the skills that were required for getting a gainful employment. We often focused on the gross enrollment ratios and primary literacy and secondary literacy rather than focusing entirely on the vocational aspects of our youth. With the coming of the new educational policy, I think with the focus on vocational training as well, we'll be able to utilize them better, because it's not just education that will make a person employable, but also the basic vocational skills that are required. For example, plumbing, or for example, something in the handloom sector. So third is there was lesser focus on things which were giving more employment. For example, footwear, leather, handloom. All these required more of an emphasis, and recent years have seen that the government is focusing more and more on such labor intensive sectors, sir.
Are these three areas also the areas of the biggest opportunity for UP, or are they different? Are they different?
Yes, sir. So these three areas are also the sources of opportunity. If we are able to employ our youth in labor-intensive sectors, if we are able to give them vocational training, and if we are able to ensure that there is no cheating, then we have a lot of potential in ensuring that we give good youth, employable youth, not just to Indian other states of India, but also to the world, maybe.
Okay. So obviously, the bulk load of the transformation that you need, based on your answer, has to be in vocational education, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so what are the top three things that you would want to see change in UP's vocational education?
So one is that it should not be just a certification based system, wherein we are just giving somebody a certificate and ensuring, because certificates can be procured easily in a state like this. So second is we need to focus on our women. Although the latest statistics say that around 37% is the female labor force participation rate, but I still think that the potential of women remains underutilized, sir. So third is that we need to have a lot of training centers, especially in the rural areas, to cater
Mm.
to the large number of youth that we have there. As we spoke of the 70% of the population, they need to be catered to well than the urban part.
Okay, so I know it is very tempting to be optimistic hearing your response. But if you look at the last 10, 15 years and you see all the, key indicators and their pattern, we don't see a moment where, okay, we can say, oh, this is the point where UP started transforming and, changing its ways. So we feel like, yeah, this is more of the same. So I think it is not just UP, it is everywhere in the country. We all have great ideas, right? So NEP, like you said, we'll come to that, by the way. Good ideas, right?
Yes, sir.
But we are a country of great ideas, but we still cannot reach the goals that we set out for ourselves, right? What is the issue there? First of all, do you agree with me? I know you're optimistic, so I'm asking you, do you agree with me? And if yes, what do you think is really needed in India? What aspects are not present?
Sir, I think first of all, the goals that we set for ourselves are in them too optimistic. For example, for getting a GDP of 5 trillion USD by 2025 was a very optimistic goal that we had set for ourselves. It is the same as I consider that I'll study for 12 hours so that at least 7 hours I can take out throughout the day so that I study well. So I think it's a good trick to keep us moving ahead, trying to reach that goal. Sir, I think the need of the moment is one that we focus on the exports. The more the exports, the better will be the economy, and it will have definitely a trickle down effect on all other sectors. So, second would be the research capabilities that we have. Since we have a lot of potential, a lot of intelligent people in our nation, we need to focus on it. So, third, I would say that again, I would like to use our potential that we have in the women of our country who are right now less represented in the STEM courses. If we are able to utilize them well in the STEM courses, even that would push our nation towards a better future and maybe towards a developed nation soon, sir.
Okay. Okay. Good. So let's just pivot a little bit to world events. I know there are many things going on that screaming for our attention. I'm sure you've seen the whole thing unfold in Israel and Palestine. Um, what do you think is going on there? Is it fundamentally a solvable conflict?
Sir, I think it's difficult to solve a problem that is based on faith because then people are too attached to the problem. Rather than to solve it, they're too attached with the events that are happening. So in this case, it is difficult to get to a solution until the higher power out of Israel and Palestine, which is of course the Israel, they get to a sane point where they understand that killing civilians is not the way ahead. They need to come to a point where they understand that while the unprovoked attack that Hamas did was definitely a terrorist attack and need to be condemned, but that should not lead to them killing the civilians in that area. So recently, with the bombing in the Rafah area, where most of the civilians were there, uh, was definitely a very hard hit on the civilians, where thousands of kids are also being killed in this attack, sir.
So you think the problem is just with Israelis and Palestinians? Like, yeah, their faith and how they're acting with each other. Is that the only, like you characterize this as a faith issue or a religious issue?
Yes,
Is
sir.
it fundamentally only a religious conflict or are there other threads here?
So definitely there are stakes involved by other world leaders who are not working that well to solve this conflict because they have their ulterior motives behind it. While somebody is threatened by Hezbollah and they feel that an attack to Hamas will showcase the power dynamics of the region, others might feel it better for their maybe energy security or the security of the economy, sir. So it is a combination of both. While the fundamental reason lies religion, but then on top of it, there are many political mix of political issues which have complicated this issue even more.
What's the connection of globalization with Israel-Palestine issue? Is there a connection?
So what I can think of is that we are trying to isolate this place from the global economy, something of that sort.
Okay. Let's go to another conflict, which is happening in Ukraine. Has globalization a role to play there in either accelerating or decelerating the conflict?
Sir, I think that Russia would not like Ukraine to be a part of any globalization stand, and it will do all the best that is possible to ensure that NATO doesn't enter its borders. So, even within the subset of globalization, there are other fundamental issues which are making this problem even further complicated, sir.
Okay, okay. So you're familiar with the World Economic Forum meeting in Davos.
Yes,
They
sir.
met recently. Do you know what were the top five world or top three world issues that they were talking about?
So one was the wars that were happening, and it was decided that there is a need to de-escalate these wars because they are raising the insurance cost on shipping, and they are raising the values of commodities, and in turn the inflationary pressures on the countries. So second was the talk on climate change, and the leaders agreed that there is a need to shift to a world that is not drifting so fast towards a warmer climate. So third was that India showcased that it has the strength to be a global power, and we must be included in the permanent five members, or at least the non-permanent membership should be enhanced. Sir. So I think these are the three takeaways.
Okay. And let's talk a little bit about climate, and then we can come to India's foreign policy. What is Medha? What is climate hypocrisy?
So I'll take a guess on it, sir.
Sure.
So I think that when we try to, when one party tries to convince the other party that there is a need to do something about the climate, but on the back of it, they themselves are not adhering to those principles. That must be climate hypocrisy.
But that is a definition of hypocrisy, isn't it? No,
Yes.
my question was okay, that's fine. So let's move to India's foreign policy. I know we have been tom-tomming this whole thing that India is a big power and India has influence over the world events, and we should be we are entitled to this and that. Um, what do you think are um, clear signs that India's soft power has increased? In which world events has India played a key role and moved some things because of its power?
Sir, the recent one that I can recall is the release of our men from Qatar, wherein it was definitely because of our soft power that we were able to save those men from the death sentence. So another is on climate aspect, our International Solar Alliance. It got huge support from the other ones because we were able to showcase our strength on it. So third, I would use the example of Operation Ganga, wherein we were able to take out our students from Ukraine, make a green corridor, and ensure that all the countries agreed to it, and our students came back safely to our country, which was difficult in those times when Russia was heavily attacking the Ukraine side, sir.
Okay, and do you think that India is well poised to be in the you know um, UN Security Council?
Yes, sir, I believe so. Sir, recently our UN ambassador also highlighted 5 or 6 points, which highlighted that it's time that we are joining that P5 group, the esteemed P5 group. Sir, I think that it's not just about the economy, which reflects that we are the third largest economy in PPP terms and fifth largest in real terms, but the sheer demographic strength that we have is another reason why we should be represented. It is high time that countries from Asia and Africa are not represented in a forum as important as UNSC, sir.
But China is there, no?
So China is there, but I think we need to have a democratic partner from our side, which is able to represent its case well. Because I think China still focuses more onto its own benefits and pros and cons than the benefit of the Asia region as a whole. So I think so we have the capability when we talk of Vasudev Kudumbakam, or when we talk of the Raisina dialogues, the Chaturang that we focus on. I think, sir, we have the capability and also the goodwill to be in that esteemed group, sir.
Is India really talking from two sides of its mouth? Because Israel-Palestine issue, our stand was a very has been a very selfish stand, right? We never made a single attempt to call for ceasefire or speak to Israel about curbing some of its. In fact, America recent days has done better than us. They called the settlements as illegal and all of that. So, are we just like all these are good words? Vasudev Kutumbakam. It's good to hear, but foreign policy is foreign policy. We sometimes do things that are extremely um, selfish. Um, I just wanted your reactions on Israel Palestine, our strategy, because in when Nehru was there. we had a very different view of the Israel-Palestine conflict. Now we have come complete 180 degrees, isn't it?
So I think we have learned from the developed world itself. The point that we are being selfish is a new thing in our foreign policy, which I would like to assume that it is in our national interest and not being selfish in the strict sense of the term, sir. So, because when we see the developed world, it is usually thinking of its own national interest first, America first, and then everybody else. So, I think that is where we are heading to. And sir, the policy that we have toward Israel Palestine is basically now of de-hyphenation. Since we expect the same from the world when we talk of India and Pakistan relationship, we should first implement it ourselves. We need to understand the sides of both the parties and then take a stand on it. So, sir, I think since we are on the track of following the developed world in terms of that selfishness, we should become a member of this esteemed group, sir.
So you think we have a right to be selfish, basically. We want that right.
Sir, right to work in our national interest, sir.
Okay. Okay. All right. Let's talk a little bit about, some non-serious topics. Obviously, you've been a Medhavi Chhatra, as you said, gold medals. That's really good to see. Um, but you also draw mandala art. Why is that?
Sir, actually, I was not a very good artist from school times. So, this is an art which does not require that much sophistication and articulation. So, I chose this mandal art, which is basically a drawing of concentric circles filled with different kinds of shapes. The best part about it is that even if I make a mistake in the middle, it doesn't reflect on the whole picture because it itself is very symmetrical to say. So it is derived from the Buddhist concept, wherein it states that there is nothing is permanent in life, and we should take everything one day at a time, so to say. So that is where I draw mandala.
Okay. And yeah, the concept is great, but what does that give you as a human being? Why do you do it?
So I think it's sheer peace of mind. Whenever I'm in stress, it is said that when we draw each concentric circle of the mandala art, we are giving away a vice and accepting one of the virtue that we want to put in ourselves. So when days in railways become hectic, this is one thing which comes to my rescue. I usually draw it on small pieces of paper, which takes around 5 to 10 minutes, and I calm myself down and try to then solve the situation as it comes.
Okay. All right. Medha, do you have any questions for me?
No, sir. Thank you.
All right. Okay. So, Medha, I will give you my perspective.
Yes,
I enjoyed it. Okay. I think this was really good.
thank you, sir.
And I've seen so many people come in and do mock interviews. I think um, your, overall energy, your answers, your articulation, your pauses, I think they were near perfect. If there is one thing I would like you to do, don't change anything. Okay. Number one, I think I tried to pull you in different directions. I think you were citing data, your approach to answers were very good, you're fact based, you stayed optimistic, although I tried to rile you up a little bit. But good answers. The only thing I would say is if you want to change, um, when it's good to have an optimistic view, but then it can be sometimes sort of viewed as not calling a spade, right? So I think be you can be a little more critical if you want about, okay, UP hasn't lived up to its promise. What if UP lived up to its promise, the most populous state of India, if it starts producing or if it starts getting to the same level as a Karnataka or Maharashtra, what would that do to India, right? What is the opportunity? Tremendous, right? So I think there are ways to talk about negative things, but just think about that. And
Definitely.
I'll not put anything in your mouth, in words in your mouth, but you need to do the research and figure out. I think your answers had an element of vision in it, which I really liked. Because as civil servants, you need to have that. You need to have a sense of vision. Where do you want to take it in the next 5 to 10 years? So excellent work. I do agree kind of with Satyam on the world events. I'll tell you what. I think I was leading you on a little bit. Um, the the reality is, and this might be just a little more kind of homework on Israel Palestine, or even the World Economic Forum. The reason I asked it was the first charter of Davos was, is globalization a key factor in why these conflicts are not being resolved on time? See, because everyone is so interdependent, nobody wants to kind of go say, I am on this side or I am on that side, and let's talk and let's. Okay. So in Ukraine, although I don't like Russia, but I'll still buy oil from Russia. So that makes my position a little more compromised. So in Davos, they talked about that fact that globalization is a problem today, and all this is, see, it's not being selfish. India's Israel relationship, as Israel is the biggest weapons and defense dealer for India now, right? So there's a big strategic relationship, and that is preventing us from taking a stance saying don't kill people. We don't want to say that, right? Or in for America, it has many nuances, not just economic. It has geographic importance because that is America's strongest base in the Middle East. So it's not calling a ceasefire. They are calling it a humanitarian pause. I mean, look at how things have. So that was kind of what I wanted to bring out. So I think some of these international conflict, just read up and do a little more. They're not as unidimensional as a religious issue, because in Israel, Palestine especially, it can be religious. It can be my land versus your land, which is different from religion. It is like this land belongs to me. It has a geopolitical angle because of America's support and Iran support and all of that from this side, and so many strategic interests like India and Israel and so many things, but and lack of leadership in Palestine. So it's multidimensional. So I think it's good to touch all of the aspects in some ways, or you can say, sir, it has many disciplines, but the top three are here. And this is the reason was solvable question was a lead on, right? So it's, yes, it is solvable. Everything is solvable. UN gave a resolution, of two state some 70 years back. But the reason why it has not been solved
Yes.
is because of these globalization interest strategic things that are playing out. So okay, so I think mountain out of a molehill, but I think you have to do a little more research on international things.
Yes,
um
sir.
and I think, Medha, don't change anything. You have got it really to a T. um Although you did not quote any specific numbers when talking about UP, like, okay, GDP is here, GSDP is here, and unemployment is here. I actually did not feel it because it was coming across clearly, and it. I received it well, but here's there will be 6 people in the panel or 8 people or whoever, and everyone has quirks and styles and things like that, right? So they might, somebody might, okay, what are the numbers, but yeah, you make sense. But um, I think one of the things that's plaguing India, and I'm talking like for benefit of everybody, right, kind of think through, is this GDP growth is being talked about as economic growth. So um, there is a couple of layers that you have to unravel before you can say, is the economy working for its people? So I know I shared on the Telegram channel a book by APJ Abdul Kalam. There he talks about this very thing. I'll try to scan it and send it. He says, yeah, GDP growth is size of the economy. It does not tell you anything about inequality. It does not tell you anything about you know unemployment. It does not tell you where the money is actually going, who is producing. So um, in terms of India's strengths, India's opportunity area, it it has a very lopsided view. So I think we should go there and say that okay, here are India's broad parameters of growth, growth indications. So he uses a very, I found it very interesting. He uses something called development societal radar. There are many things, others use, but essentially it is basically measuring access to education, access to healthcare, access to safe and secure water, things like that. So there are 6 or 8 things that he says, okay, if this is done, country is good. Otherwise, economy will be good, but country won't be good, right? So I think there is a element of detailing that and clearly calling out. So size of the economy does not necessarily mean growth and development of the country. That is what I think the answer everybody is looking for. But I think don't change anything. Just do a little more reading and make sure that you keep at this level, keep smiling, and I think you have a fantastic chance of getting through. So I'm really happy that you are at this level, and I wish you all the best.